The buyer's market has now passed. We have entered into where we were before, which is kind of a seller's market. Hey everybody, it's Brad Decater with the Decater Home Team. This is your monthly market update for the month of February. Stats just came up, so in this video we're going to go over all the statistics I normally do, which is actives, pendings, months of inventory, prices, things like that. Then we'll dive into some other news like mortgage rates, the jobs report, and kind of what's going on with the Fed to wrap it all up. Stick around. All right, so before we kick off the MLS statistics, let's talk about mortgage rates and the Fed and all that kind of stuff. So interest rates right now are a little bit higher than they were in my last video. As we entered February, we were around that 6% mortgage rate, and that's because of the good signs we were seeing on the CPI reportings for inflation. However, we had a pretty poor jobs report, which was I think February 2nd or 3rd. And since that, we've had increases in mortgage rates, and so they've gone up from about the 6% to around the mid-6s, depending on the borrower. So let's call it 6.5%. So you would think that that would kind of change things, but actually what we're going to get into here in a second is that there is still tons of buyer demand and activity out there right now. So pretty interesting that interest rates actually went up, and the market has also been going up and getting more competitive. Now, as far as what the Fed is doing, we do expect, most people expect that they're going to still have a few more rate increases to get a hold of this inflation. So probably 0.25 the next two Fed meetings is most likely what's going to happen. But remember, the Fed rate is not the mortgage rate. So just because that happens doesn't mean that specifically 30-year mortgage rates are going to actually come down. That's going to be tied to the 10-year yield and also just the bond market in general, and mostly inflation. So we do still think that inflation is going to be coming down. The CPI rating here coming up next should be a pretty good reading. And then also just to touch on the jobs report. So I'm no economist here, but the guy that I follow, I believe a lot. And I think that jobs report that came out that was kind of so disturbing and what made interest rates go up even farther, really didn't have all the data. So maybe do a different video. I can't even explain it that well myself, but basically it should be a much better report next time. And that should change things as well. So most experts are seeing that interest rates should be coming down again here pretty soon. Definitely by the time summertime happens, but probably by the next meeting. I think May 10th is that big date to circle on the calendar, and that should be, I think, the start of when interest rates really start falling, as well as inflation. All right, and right before the statistics in the MLS, just on the market and kind of what's going on for our team, making offers, definitely still competitive out there. I'll look at the actual statistics, which will show you what's going on, but those are always usually lagged about a month behind. So from actual offers this last month, it has been super competitive. In most cases, a lot of the good houses that are marketed correctly, priced correctly in the right areas, they are getting multiple offers in this last few months, the last month. One of them that Derek made an offer on actually had 35 offers. So in some cases, it's super, super crazy. But just a little warning, or not fair warning, but making sure everyone's clear. It's still not like it was last spring. So that was the craziest I've ever seen it, where almost you had to waive every single contingency, non-refundable earnest money, $300,000 above listing price. That's kind of what was necessary to get the job done last year in the absolute heat of the market. So just want to clarify, not to scare any of you new buyers out there, it is more competitive now for the right price, right house. There may be multiple offers, but the multiple offers are still within reason. So we're seeing certainly above listing price on a lot of those properties, but not significantly above in most cases. And then contingency wise, if it's super competitive, yes, there is being contingencies that are being waived, but it's not quite as crazy as it was before. So just boots on the ground, what's going on, more competitive, multiple offers, but definitely not as crazy as it was about a year ago. All right, first statistic, most important one, pricing. So average price points, we're looking at all of King County, by the way, all single family and all condos. We're actually up 4%. So big month for February, up 4% since January, which is fantastic. In my last January update, I said that we were about even from year over year statistics, but we've gone up 4% since then. But unfortunately, February of 2022 was also a crazy month, so we're actually down about 2% year over year, February to February, 22 and 23. So that's definitely a good sign. If you watch my last few videos, this is what I predicted. When we were in January, actually, boots on the ground doing our jobs, we could feel that the market was changing, but of course the statistics won't come out until later. So I had a feeling that this February update would be significant change, and 4% in 1 month is pretty large. Obviously, if that happened every month for the year, that'd be like 40% or more. So big, huge month for February, which is what I predicted. All right, so next up, we're gonna look at new listings, inventory on the market, pendings, and solds. So for new listings, we had about 1,900 new listings hit the market in February, which is up about 17% from January. This is a normal statistic to go up. We're gonna probably see more new listings come up every month until we hit that peak in about summertime. So very normal to get more listings in February than in January as we kind of approach this spring market. Now, the interesting part to me was when we look at last year. So last year we had about 28 new listings come and hit the market in February. So we're down significantly, only 1,900 this time. So we're actually down about 33, 34% in new listings coming to the market in February this year than we did last year. So again, I've said this a bunch of times, but everyone keeps talking about how much inventory is out there and all that. And there is more inventory as we get into the next statistic. But as far as new listings coming to the market, actually less new listings now than there was before. And this has been a trend on every single monthly market update video that I've done the last few months. We're still seeing less new homes come to the market, new listings come to the market than we did even last year. So as the old inventory starts getting scooped up and going pending, it's gonna get more tight and more competitive as we get into spring is my guess. So total active listings, this is not just new. New would be it came on the market in February, but total is just anything that's on the market at that point. So it could have been something that came in January, didn't sell, or December or November, or even from July last year. So total actives, we're at 2,109, 2,109 in King County, which is actually down from January. And that's because we had such a big pending number coming up, which I'll get to soon. So a lot of the inventory that was a little bit older has been either scooped up or came off the market. So total active listings in general is down 8% from January, which is interesting because usually it would be the reverse. It would be actually more active inventory on the market in February than there would be in January. So that's a very interesting one. However, total active listings, this is what people keep talking about and is totally true when you look at it this way. There was significantly less total listings available in February last year than there is this year. And that's again because of the overflow of kind of the listings that didn't sell from October to January that are still on the market. So overall, there still is more to choose from right now, this given, at this very minute than there was about a year ago, more to choose from, but significantly less coming to the market new right now. So pendings 1873, we were up about 18% on pending listings, which is good. It's a good sign that things are kind of starting to move, which is what I've been saying. And looking at last year, we're obviously, because there was more new listings that came in February last year 2022 does have a lot more pending listings as well, but that makes sense because the numbers are kind of correlated together. So one more thing to add about pending listings, I said we had about 1,870, give or take. If you remember when I said the new listings, we had 1,900 new listings. So basically the same amount of properties that came to the market are also the same amount of number that went pending. So that's definitely, that's a pretty interesting sign. So that means it is definitely getting competitive out there. Again, that's not the total active listings because there is still overflow, like I said, from the other months, but we are getting about the same amount of number of homes go under contract as how many homes are actually coming to the market in that specific month. So sales, we had 1,527. This is up like 75%, significant amount from January. That also makes sense because we had a lot more pendings in January, especially compared to December. So that's kind of catching up. But again, sales are down from last year. This is going to be a slower year in general. So there will be probably less sales, just actual closings this year than there was last year. So it's probably going to be a continuing trend. So list to sale price ratio is the next one. We were at 99.3% list to sale price ratio, meaning that on average the home sold for just below list price, and that's up almost 2% from just January. January was at about 97.8% in January. So just in the month of January to February, huge jump in list to sale price ratio, meaning that properties are getting a lot closer to their list price than they were before. And again, like I mentioned, there is multiple offers. There is a lot of homes that are selling for more than list price right now, or at least they're going under contract. So this number is, I expect to change. So all the houses that have been getting those multiple offers here in February, they're not closed yet. So they're not going to be on that statistic right now. And so when they actually close in March, that's when they'll hit the record here for when I do my videos. And I think that that number will probably be higher next month because of the multiple offers and how things are changing, and that'll probably continue through the spring as a guess. So months of inventory is another way to look at inventory. Remember, we've looked at new listings on the market in the month. We've looked at overall listings, everything available, and then months of inventory is a way to gauge how much inventory we would have if no other homes came to the market and we had the same buyer demand as we had right now. So now we are at 1.4 months of inventory, which is significantly down from just January. We're at 2.2 months of inventory. So a lot less as far as that statistic goes, which is one of my favorite statistics on really how to gauge, like, you know, how much the buyer has to choose from. It's not just how many on the market today, not how many came out this week. It's just months of inventory based on buyer demand and everything. So that's a great number to look at. Right now we're at 1.4 months, which is definitely a tight competitive market. If you look at just that statistic alone, it should be in the 4 to 6 month range if we were in more of a balanced market. And in the recessions of like the housing crash before, it was more like a few years of inventory all sitting without a lot of buyer demand. So still competitive, 1.4 months of inventory, always a good stat to look at. All right, so lastly, to kind of wrap this up, is just predictions. I always do what I think is gonna happen the rest of this year. So I think that it's gonna be a competitive spring. The rest of this year, the rest of this coming next few months, I think this Fed is going to be doing their thing, raising interest rates, but I think inflation is going to be coming down. Jobs report will be good, and mortgage interest rates will be coming down starting here in a couple months. I think they'll probably kind of stay where they're at for a little bit right now in this window that we're currently in, and then I think they'll start coming down. But it's proven at 6.5% just this month in February. You know, there's still demand out there, lots of demand, and still very little active inventory coming to the market new. So because of all those reasons, I believe that what we've seen this last month. So for that reason, I think that we're gonna see more of what we just saw in February. So I think March is going to be similar in April, and then I think it'll get even honestly more competitive as we get into the real spring, you know, late April, May, and then into the summer. I think it'll be pretty competitive because I think that's finally when interest rates are actually going to be coming down more significantly. And then, you know, prices will be up by then too. So that's my prediction for the next few months. Prices will be going up. So a house today is definitely going to be cheaper to buy than it would be, I would guess, in say June, for example. And then once we have the full inventory out of summertime, summer slowdown, kind of fall time, I think it'll kind of slow down a little bit. But it should just be more of a flat and probably a small appreciation. But overall this year, we're definitely going to see appreciation numbers. Houses are going to sell for a lot more at the end of the year than I think they did in the beginning of the year. So that's the market update, you guys. If you're looking for more detailed information about your specific neighborhood or the place that you're trying to look to buy in, then definitely reach out and book a call with me so we can chat more about it. And stay tuned for the next market update.